media to say he was proud of his 3 years with Bristol City and said the decision to go north was the toughest of his life.
It has always been my ambition of mine to manage one of the big clubs in Scotland, where football is as passionately held as in Italy. Opportunities in football management do not come up every day, and if I had waited, maybe the chance would have gone forever.
He paid tribute to his players and the fans before bidding an emotional farewell.
You have a great club, and you are what makes this club. It's a sad day for me, but I hope that you will understand that in life is a continual process with many unexpected twists and turns. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Jordan then retreated to his office without further comment. The players arrived, many still shocked, especially those attracted to the club because Jordan was in charge.
It's been a kick in the teeth for the club, it's been a kick in the teeth for the players. But having said that, from a professional footballer point of view, we've only got to concern ourselves with one thing, and that's hopefully getting 3 points against Brighton on Saturday.
The players left for training after packing the dressing room for their final team talk.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of emotion involved in it with the manager as well as the players, but you know, we just have to accept it and get on with the job.
The big question now, will caretaker manager Jimmy Lumsden, who Jordan appointed at Ashton Gate, follow Jordan to Scotland? Many fans hope he stays, at least for the time being.
I think Jimmy Lumsden should carry on. He's been there a few years now, so he knows what it's all about.
I think Jimmy Lumsden to take over in the short term, maybe get someone else in. I don't know who, but definitely Jimmy Lumsden for the time being.
Is there anyone that people are talking about?
Well, everyone's talking about Bobby Gold, but we don't want him.
This afternoon, Jordan arrived at Edinburgh Airport. His first test as a manager over, Scotland's international hero returned to his homeland to manage at the highest level. He was driven to his second press conference of the day and introduced by his new chairman.
Joe Jordan is the new manager of Barton Lothian Football Club. It's a great pleasure.
And he was given the warmest of welcomes by a new set of adoring fans. David Passmore, BBC West, Ashton Gate.
In his first match in charge.
Obviously they wanted to do well.
Well, I just left, read the report that Joe had left on Brighton. I went to watch them. I added one or two little things to the report. And it was just the same preparation as if Joe would have been here.
And what's it feel to get off to such a good start?
Well, I'm delighted for the lads. That's the most important thing, because it's been a bit traumatic this week, and I'm glad for them that that's over, and they can just go on with the business of playing.
So you're off to a good start then?
Yeah, the lads are off to a good start, yeah.
But is City's team ready to go up?
Jolly good question, but, you know, like all optimists at the beginning of the season, we hope not too far. There's no reason why, you know, we're set up here now for the big time. I hope that we can maintain the momentum which has been set up for the last 10 years. And one would hope now that we really must consider ourselves to be in with a great chance.
And how does manager Jimmy Lumsden rate his squad's promotion outlook?
Very difficult to say. It's a very competitive league when you've got the likes of Blackburn spending millions of pounds, and your Newcastle, Sunderland. You know it's going to be difficult, but you're just hoping that teams coming here to Ashton Gate will find it very hard to get a result.
This morning, after much speculation, Bristol City announced that with great reluctance, they had sacked manager Jimmy Lumsden. His place would be taken by a committee of 3 senior players until the post could be filled. The board said they had held off for as long as they could, but with just one league win in 14 and the relegation zone looming, they decided to act.
It was taken reluctantly because we have a lot of time for Jimmy Lumsden. I'm sure that people outside don't realise sort of the relationship and that the guy has worked extremely hard and what a super fellow he is. But at the end of the day, the results are not there. Bristol City is bigger and better than all of us, and we've had to make this decision. It was the departure of Joe Jordan 18 months ago to Hearts which allowed his assistant, Jimmy Lumsden, to take over. He was popular with the board and the players, but the results fell well short of the aim, promotion to the Super League. The job's been advertised, but until then, in a surprise move, 3 senior players, Osman, Shelton and Aizerwood, have been put in charge.
We've come in this morning basically just to come training as a normal footballer. All of a sudden, you're asked to take training and pick teams for Saturday. That's not happened to me in 16, 17 years. It's not happened to Russell. And so we've got a lot of talking to do. And not only that, don't forget we'll probably have to play ourselves Saturday. So we got, a double helping on our plate.
City had a close look at their new man and his style today. It was no great surprise that it was Dennis Smith who'd signed a 2-year contract to lead the team out of the relegation zone. It had been leaked over the weekend. Today there was a handshake for the Midlander, who before being sacked took Sunderland from the 3rd to 1st Division. He knows the difficulties now lying ahead.
You always move in at a difficult time at most clubs. Possibly this is the best time I've moved in the 3 clubs I've managed now. At York we're in a worse situation, Sunderland we're in a worse situation, so this is the best I've ever moved in, and hopefully it'll be even better by the end of the season.
Ozzy Ardiles had wanted the job, City didn't want him. Discounted on the shortlist, the sacked Coventry manager Terry Butcher and Chris Nicholl given the boot from Southampton. Ray Wilkins would have been a popular choice but opted to remain playing at QPR. In the end, City bought experience and a man who's known success.
He's come over immediately of a man who's going to command respect, and I think that if you command respect, you've got a chance.
Smith is totally different to the manager he's replacing. Jimmy Lumsden was an introverted man, criticised for a lack of communication. The City players, struggling to find form now, have an outgoing personality as their boss who wants to identify with the fans.
I will go out into workmen's clubs and whatever, and I'll do talkings and I'll talk to people, and I'll be fairly blunt about it, but at least I want to be there. I want what they want. I want exactly what the supporters want. I want to see a Bristol City team playing good football and winning. I mean, if you say what type of team, Notts Forest, somebody like that, if we could get to that sort of standard, then I'd be absolutely delighted.
And your priority from this minute on?
Get enough points to keep us into the 2nd Division.
Now Bristol City is in his hands. The first challenge comes within 24 hours, an away match with fellow relegation fighters Plymouth Argyle.
He should have known. Yesterday, Dennis Smith won a vote of confidence from the Bristol City board. 24 hours later, his 10-month reign at Ashton Gate was over.
It's football. Enjoy yourselves.
Some players were shocked, others quick to offer consolation.
At 9:30 this morning, we spoke to Dennis, and unfortunately we had to make that decision.
The board, who sacked Jimmy Lumsden in similar circumstances last year, said today a lack of leadership is behind City's crisis.
We just feel that the players needed greater motivation, and we feel that the only way at the end of the day is to change the leadership. And I'm not saying that in this point, I don't mean that Dennis could not motivate, but sometimes it requires a different motivator to get the best out of players.
Dennis Smith, who's just moved into a new home, said today he still hadn't finished the unpacking, here or at Ashton Gate.
I think I made decisions which upset a lot of people, and possibly my attitude at times upset people in the way that I went around doing it. But I've always been that way, and I don't intend to change.
Smith steered City clear of a relegation dogfight, and the new season began well. But signing Andy Cole, he now thinks, might have been a mistake, spending all his money on one player. Rumours of unrest began when Jackie Jakanowski was dropped recently, then 10 games without a win and a spineless FA Cup defeat this week. But should he have gone?
Shocked. I can't believe it.
I think that Leshke should have given enough money to, given time to sort things out.
Who do you blame?
Directors. They're the ones that should go, not the manager.
The man charged with turning the club round is Russell Osman. He's promising big changes and a better attitude.
I don't want the lads to go around looking moody or not enjoying themselves. You can't play football to the best of your abilities if you're uptight and not enjoying it.
Yeah. Now I'm a little bit angry, a little bit cross, because my pride's been dented and hurt, and now I'm determined to be back very quickly to prove a lot of people wrong.
Osman has less than a week to shape his revival, and what a first hurdle. West Ham away. Steve Scott, HTV News, Bristol.
Today, the club's financial director was quick to make the most out of figures, showing pre-tax profits of more than £500,000 for the past year.
I want shareholders to be aware that, particularly in view of the EGM, as you say, that it is their club, and they should be aware of the good financial management that has taken place over these last 11 years since this club was saved in 1982.
The Rebel or Reform Group had not yet received today's figures and said that they couldn't comment. An extraordinary general meeting will be held next week.
For Les Q, Saturday's home game against Millwall marked the end of an era. It was his last as chairman of Bristol City Football Club and the final time he was to take his place in the director's box. The power struggle for control of the club came to a head on Friday when nearly 1,000 shareholders packed Whitchurch Sports Centre to vote on who should run the club. This morning, a representative from the ballot scrutineers arrived at Ashton Gate with the envelope which contained the board's fate. At the reconvened shareholders' meeting, Les Q, flanked by his directors, revealed the news.
I therefore declare that each of the resolutions numbered 1 to 9 have been carried and resolution number 10 has been rejected.
The Rebels had taken a 57% share of the vote and with it control of the club. Perhaps the final nail in the coffin, the news just hours before Friday's meeting that the board were found guilty by the FA of misconduct over grant applications. For Mr. Q, now just another supporter, apparently no bitterness.
At the end of the day, I just hope that they sort of organise and run the club to the best of their ability and achieve the success that we as supporters want. You know, I'm a supporter of Bristol City. I'm an ex-director but a supporter, and I still want to see a winning team. So yeah, let's hope that everything goes well for everybody.
The new board set about planning the future with David Rossi, the new chairman. Manager Russell Osman, meanwhile, returned from training to meet them, not knowing if he still had a job. The board says there won't be change for the sake of it.
We've got an intensive week of reviewing every single aspect of this club. We won't accept, because it happens like this, or has happened like this for 15 years, that is the right way to do it. It might well be the right way to do it. We won't change for change's sake, but we won't be frightened to change either.
The new board were today settling in. The supporters who fill these stands will be expecting them to turn promises into reality and Bristol City into a force to be reckoned with at the highest level. Whether they fulfil those promises and satisfy the Ashton Gate faithful, only time will tell. Jill Hoyle, HTV News.
It's very, very important for us to mend bridges. Everyone's been through an extremely torrid time. And that's history as far as I'm concerned, and I speak for the rest of the board. We want to get on with running Bristol City Football Club, and as I said earlier, mend the bridges for the good of the club.
What about the position of Russell Osman, the manager?
Russell's position is, as you're aware of, he's under contract with Bristol City Football Club. We've had a meeting with him earlier this afternoon. The meeting, I believe, went extremely well, and I'm delighted with what I've seen of Russell. He's an extremely bright young manager, a manager, personally speaking, I hope will be with Bristol City for many years to come.
So you're not going to sack him?
Absolutely not.
Now, the other thing hanging over the club, obviously, is the FA inquiry and the finding that the club is guilty of misconduct. What will happen about that now?
To be totally honest with you, I'm not sure. We're looking at various paperwork and documentation later this afternoon. I will be in a position to answer that question more fully when I've had the opportunity of studying the various documentation.
What will be the impact on the club so far as the supporters are concerned, and how long will they have to wait to see changes?
We've obviously stated in the past we're looking for Premier League football within 5 years, and we would like to think that we will be able to obtain that goal within the 5 years. Obviously, there's going to be a period of consolidation, which is going to be extremely important for the club. But I will stand by what we've said in the past. We will be in the Premier League, hopefully, within 5 years.
So you're not going to sack him?
Absolutely not.
So you're not going to sack him?
Absolutely not.
So you're not going to sack him?
Absolutely not.
And then suddenly the agreement comes on Tuesday. Bye-bye, Russell. Hello, Joe. You'll be installed at 12 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Angus, that is a pretty horrible remark to make, with all due respect. In no time have I spoken to any other managers whatsoever, and I spoke to Joe Jordan for the very first time yesterday.
Joe Jordan is back as manager at Ashton Gate. Less than a day after the shock sacking of Russell Osman, Bristol City has given his job to the man who quit in 1990 to take over Scottish club Hearts. Well, Jordan flew into Bristol Airport this afternoon and went straight to the club. And that's where we join Angus Scott right now at Ashton Gate. Angus, over to you.
Thank you, Sue. Joe Jordan has just met his new players for the first time and has been installed, as you say, just 20 hours after the sacking of Russell Osman. As Jordan came back for his second term here at Ashton Gate, he said it was nice to be wanted back. 4 years after walking out on Bristol City, Joe Jordan arrived at Lulsgate Airport to take over as manager for a second spell. Speculation had been rising all day that Jordan would be filling Russell Osman's vacated role after a press conference was put back 3 hours when a flight from Scotland was cancelled. The new board didn't mind waiting a few extra moments, milking every possible drop of anticipation before Jordan's much predicted arrival.
We now look to the future, and I am pleased to introduce the new manager of Bristol City Football Club.
Jordan's under no illusions about the task in front of him: recapture the good times at Ashton Gate on a budget and quickly.
It's a bit of a dogfight when you're down there, and it's a very, very tight and competitive league, as everybody here knows. So we can't really waste any time, and I'm going to have a discussion with the players tonight, and we'll start training tomorrow with our minds clear on what our task is.
Jordan spent 3.5 years at Ashton Gate in the late 80s, firstly as a player, then as manager. In his first full season, he took City to the semi-finals of the Littlewoods Cup, losing to Nottingham Forest in extra time in the second leg. In his second season, he led City to promotion from the old third division, finishing runners-up to Bristol Rovers. But in September 1990, he walked out for Hearts, before spells at Celtic and Stoke City. His predecessor, Russell Osman, was nowhere to be seen today and making no comment. Some feel his last days at Ashton Gate were served as a lame duck manager, in charge until the agreement could be sewn up with Jordan behind the scenes.
And then suddenly the agreement comes on Tuesday. Bye-bye, Russell. Hello, Joe. You'll be installed at 12 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Angus, that is a pretty horrible remark to make, with all due respects. In no time have I spoken to any other managers whatsoever, and I spoke to Joe Jordan for the very first time yesterday.
Whatever the case, Jordan, back at Ashton Gate less than 24 hours after Osman's sacking, is now in charge, and his most immediate task is to take City out of the relegation zone. Well, there are two new managers here tonight, Joe Jordan and Ray Wilkins, because Queen's Park Rangers are taking on Bristol City in a reserve game tonight. We hope to speak to one of those managers, of course Joe Jordan, later in the programme. Back to the studio. Joe Jordan, the new manager of Bristol City. Joe, you've had a chance to have a chat with the players. Was it a good meeting?
Yes, I think so. It's handy that the players were here tonight. We've got a game here tonight, so the other players were kindly enough to come along, so it gave me an opportunity to see everyone at the one time and have explained my thoughts and my views, and we'll start training tomorrow morning and hopefully get things sorted out.
Do you feel like you're at home?
Yes, I do. The stadium has changed. There's a lot of progress being made here with the stadium, but there's still a lot of old faces here, both players and staff, so that's something that's very encouraging, you know, to walk into a place and there's still people there that you know, and make it that little bit easier.
Your main, basically, target is to get City out of the relegation zone, isn't it?
At this precise moment, we find ourselves in a precarious position, you know, in the bottom three, and really we're trying to, initially, to try and get out of that area. It's not a position that anyone likes, whether you're a manager, player or a spectator, and yeah, that's our main priority at this moment in time.
Thanks very much, Joe. I hope the reserve team game goes well tonight. You look forward to your first game, which is, of course, live on HTV on Sunday. Now back to the studio.
Manager of Bristol City. He signed a 2-year contract and takes over, of course, from Joe Jordan, who parted company with the club on Monday night. Now, talks finalising the deal took place this afternoon, and tonight John Ward returns to management, the former Bristol Rovers manager in charge at Bristol City. I'm now joined by John Ward and the chairman of Bristol City, Scott Davison. First to you, John. Welcome back to Bristol. What does it feel like to be moving across the city?
I'm excited to be back in the city. I enjoyed my time here before. Everyone in the city made me very welcome. I came to Ashton Gate a number of times and was made very welcome then. So I'm looking forward to getting on with the job, and hopefully we can get a good result on Saturday.
How do you think both sets of fans will react to the news?
I hope there won't be a problem. I mean, I enjoyed my time across the road, as you said, and hopefully we can be a little bit more successful here. We can just push the one out a little bit more, and hopefully everyone will be happy.
Now, Scott let us all into a little bit of a secret earlier in the week. He said, one, you won't have much money to play with, and two, he wants to negotiate with the players. How does that grab you?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we've had a long chat about how the club wants to operate and how they wish to do it. I'm quite happy with that situation. I've not had any money before, so why should now be any different?
Scott, what qualities do you think John will bring to the job? Why did you go for him?
Well, John was top of our list, and we're absolutely delighted he's agreed to join us. Got a superb track record. I think all City fans will acknowledge the success he had at Bristol Rovers, and obviously now up until today with Burnley. He's a tremendous coach above all else, and we're really looking forward to working with him.
Be honest, did you have him lined up when Joe Jordan left on Monday night?
Not at all. We made an official approach late yesterday. I know John Laycock spoke with John this morning. We arranged for a meeting this afternoon. It's all happened very, very quickly. As I said, I'm sure City fans will join me and the board in welcoming John to Ashton Gate.
Gentlemen, thanks both very much indeed for joining us. Best of luck with it.
Thank you.
Well, as you heard, we had a few problems a little earlier. Let's see if we can go back to that report where John Ward was introduced to the press at a press conference just a short while ago. In the end, it was only the timing of the move which fueled the speculation. John Ward was assistant manager at Burnley, but crucially had no contract there and was free to move. He'd applied for 3 other managers' jobs in the past year and was keen to get back in charge as soon as possible.
They have been settled into a pattern and worked with Jerry certainly throughout this season, and it would be foolish to go into something that you know, if it's not broken, you don't have to mend it, sort of thing.
So how will the former Bristol Rovers boss be accepted by City fans? They gave their reaction just a short time ago.
It seems that everybody who's talking about the city and the changes that are happening, John Ward is the name that keeps cropping up.
They'll get to respect him in the end, but like, as soon as he's the Rovers boss, then he might get a bit stick at first.
He's a steady bloke. He's a nice man. All the Rovers fans liked him.
In the short term, John Ward has just 8 games before the end of the season to get City back in contention for a place in the promotion playoffs. In the long term, he'll be working under much tighter financial controls than his predecessor.
This time 5 years ago, this man was plotting Sweden's assault on the World Cup finals. He did a good job. Sweden finished 3rd in the USA.
Henrik Larsson, he must finish it now.
Behind the scenes, the stock of the nation's tactical director had never been higher. Fast forward to 1999. Life's very different for Benny Lennartson. His Bristol City side entered the weekend bottom of Division 1. If things don't improve, his first crack at English football will be his last.
I have had success for 20 years, and I think I've never been under pressure in the way I've been here before, and it is an interesting experience. I've always been interested to work in different countries, and England is the fifth country of my career, and instead of taking a bigger club, I wanted to take a club where I can start more or less from zero, and I could see the potential here, and I still can do it, and I think it's a very interesting job.
So much so, the previous manager had no intention of sharing it. Last season, John Ward won the fans' hearts, leading City to promotion. But at the new level, his side won only 2 of their first 16 league matches. In October, City decided a director of football would bring fresh ideas. But when Ward heard who it was, he walked out. And so Lennartson, former coach of the year in Norway and Denmark, was left to go it alone. He started his new life about as popular at Ashton Gate as the average Bristol Rovers fan.
I think whoever came into that scenario would have had to have won the next 10 games to have won everyone over, including the press. I think that, coupled with him coming from Europe, hasn't helped. And clearly the pressure's been on right from the start. There's been a lot of demands placed on him. If we had more points on the board, I think everyone would have been saying, well, in 3 years we've gone from bottom of the 2nd division, which is where we were, we shouldn't forget that, into the 1st division. There's a very good quality senior squad, and not only that, the under 21, 19 and 17 sides are doing very, very well.
Push it! Come on, Aaron!
Davidson insists injuries and suspensions are more responsible for City's position than the appointment of a foreign coach. Fans have been relatively patient. Average attendance is almost 13,000. But as time ticks away, criticism increases.
Here in the radio and in the press, they are writing letters, and it's more or less the same every time. So you have to take it for what it is. But when it's fair criticism, they have the right to express it, and I'm listening to it. It has been easy for me to look at the way we have improved and say it, but it looks like the press here in Bristol doesn't want to see it that way.
I don't agree with that at all. I think he's had a very non-critical deal. He's won 2 games out of 22, which is the worst record we can recall of any manager ever at Bristol City starting off. We think there are reasons for that, and that's why there hasn't been a lot of criticism. He's got this thing about he's a foreigner coming in and we've treated him differently to anybody else. That's totally untrue. A Bristolian with a record of 2 wins from 22 games would have got criticism from the press. And if he'd been in the North East, he would have got plenty more criticism than he'd get down at Bristol.
In any case, form over Easter's eased the immediate pressure. With Port Vale and Portsmouth beaten, suddenly thoughts of survival. Sean Taylor's return from long-term injury has inspired the side. The captain refuses to blame the director of coaching for City's struggle, though he does admit his unfamiliar methods took some getting used to.
I think so. I mean, he mentioned himself. I mean, he's a foreign coach, and the way we've been used to English coaches, and then he comes in and it's different kind of training, maybe a bit longer or more thorough and all things like that. And it does take time. I mean, the players have got to look at themselves and say, you can do it for yourself, and then if you help other people around you, then so be it, and then we can get out of this situation we're in.
I mean, in this because I love football, and in my book we have done very well. It has been frustrating when we have played maximum of what we can, and people around that doesn't see that way. They want the results, but as a coach you need to see, have I got the maximum out of the team at my disposal. That's why I'm confident of my own ability and about the team as well, because now we have a bit more quality.
Lennartson enjoyed the rare luxury of fielding an unchanged team against injury-hit Grimsby. Victory would lift City off the bottom. With closest rivals Bury at Oxford and Crewe playing Port Vale, the fans needed a cracker to keep their full attention. And for once, they weren't disappointed. The commentator is Phil Duffel.
Groves, the Grimsby captain, with a cushioned header. That's nicely worked. Chance for the shot. What a strike! Sensational goal. Lee Ashcroft gives Grimsby the lead. Now it's Howells for the home side. They'll be relying on their experienced players, people like Taylor, Howells, Tinian now. There's one of the youngsters, Brennan, breaking forward. Torpy! 1-1. Tinian, Locke nearly got there. Torpy may do. Oh dear, oh dear. Torpy, he's leading by example at the moment. Here he goes again. Akinbaye. Oh dear, oh dear. Again, Zebok has made his way forward to the far post area. That's Akinbaye. And that's 2-1. Bristol City's top scorer has hit the 20 mark. Seized upon by Brown, Akinbaye, and it's teed up for Tinian. 3-1. Brian Tinian's first goal of the season, and what a time to choose. Brennan ushering it forward. Oh, and it's presented to Akinbaye, and it's 4-1.
An ovation at the end, just the result Benny wanted. It's tradition to throw his cap into the crowd after victory, and that's 3 he's got through in a week.
I'm feeling happy, that's for sure, but I know that we have a lot of hard work in front of us, but we have proved to everybody that we are a better team than our position.
Good a performance you think that was today?
I think it's the best performance since we took over. Certainly in creating chances and taking them. I think it's, from our point of view, it's been a relief, really.
We were situated, it looked as though there's absolutely no way there's a penalty, and that Mackie Bill has actually defended very well. But you never know until you see the video. So I would really not to make any comment until we've seen the video. But from where we were, it looked very, very doubtful decision. We would concede that we never really got started from the beginning, and being 2-0 up was not a reflection on the overall territorial advantage. No, we've played badly from beginning to end, really, and the players are aware of it, and we're aware of it. But it's a learning process we're going through, you know.